the reason this is such a beautiful model and something that I would frankly go back and do if I lost everything, this would be what I would do. This would be how I would rebuild everything from scratch if I lost everything tomorrow, is because it's so easy to systemize. It's so easy to automate. It's so easy to template. There are multiple ways of going about short-term renting. The first is you can do it the way I did it, which is I went out and I bought a property. And again, there's this sort of intrinsic value that comes with the ownership aspect of a property, of doing short-term renting where you own it. But it was extremely expensive. Putting 200 grand into this to make this kind of money is a good ROI, but I could have scaled this a lot better had I been more familiar with the other two options to begin with. And that included the arbitrage option or the partnership option. And that's why we brought Michael and Katrina Stead back onto the channel, because these guys have been welcomed on our channel since last fall. We have had a tremendous number of people who have engaged with them and have signed up for their coaching. That program, which has now been enhanced even further into an environment where you get to work with an entire group and you get the interaction of multiple people that are growing alongside you. These people have been coming in and absolutely slaying it. And we'll leave links in the description below to all of those videos, including testimonials of people that are really out there crushing it right now. But I wanted them to come back on and really try and give further explanation and clarity behind why my approach might have not been the right way of doing it, where I could have taken that same 200 grand and probably gone out and 10x'd the results that I'm getting right now. So without further ado, let's give that email address so that you guys can write this down and send an email if you want additional information about their turnkey process for making this happen. The email address is BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. That's BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. That'll be in the description below for you guys as well. Guys, why don't you share with us, kind of fill in the gaps. Where do you think I went wrong and how are you guys doing it right so that people can avoid my mistakes?
Well, thank you so much for having us back on the show again today.
We really appreciate it. Honestly, it's always a pleasure. It's a great conversation and we love doing this and also connecting with your audience too. It's just amazing. And also, I mean, the biggest thing is connecting with, people that chime into your guys's, audience and also coming onto our program and really seeing the results. That's what drives us 100%.
So to kind of break it down, so you...
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on that. You've had amazing results. I mean, a lot of people have engaged since you guys got started last fall, and it's, we're gonna keep bringing those folks back on because I think hearing it directly from the participants is super helpful to the audience. So we're gonna have a couple more people that are really getting early results quickly back. But again, check the links in the description. You guys can see what other folks are doing. Don't take it from any of us. Take it from the people that are actually doing it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think you correctly identified. I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can put a short-term rental transaction together, but really when you boil it down, there's only really three. So the first way is, as you correctly identified, you can just simply go and own the property. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think based on the numbers, any sensible person looking at that would go, wow, that sounds pretty damn good. I want to get some of that, right? The challenge though with ownership is unless you have reasonably deep pockets, it's not a very scalable venture, right? Because eventually you run out of equity, you run out of available credit to you. It's a much longer term gain, right? So in our case, we do things a little bit differently. Not to say that any one is necessarily better than the other. Of course, there's always pros, cons to every single approach you take. But the other two ways, the second way is called rental arbitrage. So the idea there is rather than owning the property, paying a mortgage to a bank, you're essentially controlling somebody else's property through the way of a lease agreement. So it's paying rent to a landlord, and then you're selling the nights on that particular property at a higher price than what it's costing you to carry it on a monthly basis. So that's one way. And our journey, that's how we started. So we got up to around 5-6 properties that way while we were still working full time. So just kind of doing this on the side. The problem though, even with that particular model, is there is still some capital intensiveness to it. So the three biggest costs are rent, damage deposits, and furnishings. So what happened was, to be transparent, we got up to around 5-6 units. We started to run out of capital to expand further. And we're just like, well, Right now, it's like we have to wait for the income to come back in. So we build up a big enough pool to then deploy into the next deal. It just felt too slow, at least for us. I mean, we're just not very patient people, I guess.
Like we wanted to really grow and scale this. So as Michael said, we got to about 5-6 properties, and we're like, okay, it's a little bit like the slow boat to China right now. I'm like, how do we go a little bit quicker? We're capped out right now. How do we go faster? And essentially we had a meeting, like just the two of us, and we said, okay, well, management meeting, really important. Yeah. So essentially if we, if it's damage deposit, furnishings, and lease agreements, those 3 things are slowing us down. What if we just stopped paying those? What if, right? And essentially at that point, any new deal that we went into, we said, yeah, for sure. We'd love to, work with you, start, having short-term rentals at your property. However, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, we don't pay for furnishings, we don't pay for rent, and we don't sign a lease agreement. However, this is the benefits of how we can partner with you. So you can actually make more money off of your property and, get actual, like assets and more cash flow from the property of what you want and have it completely passive. And this is how you can partner with us. So essentially that just like put this whole thing on his head, flipped on his head. And now we almost strictly do partnerships at this point too.
So that's the third method. So that's what we call short-term rental partnerships.
If you don't mind me hitting pause on that, and you just kind of hit a really positive nerve there, Katrina. So what's your approach to those folks? All right, so I'm going to take over some partnership in your home, and you don't have to give away your secret sauce. Of course, on this channel, that's part of your coaching. You guys obviously do a deeper dive on that, but what's that?
No, give it away.
Give away the secret sauce. Let's do it.
A little bit of context on that. So your approach to someone that's obviously owner on title, whether it's an apartment complex or whether it's, single family homes. Okay, so I'm going to partner with you. I've got this kind of special sauce, if you will. I'm not buying any furniture and I'm not paying any rent or mortgage to you. To me, playing devil's advocate on behalf of the channel, that sounds like kind of a tough sell. I mean, give me a little background on that.
Yeah, because at first, like when we first bring this up in conversation, naturally what comes up, people say like, who the hell would do that with you guys, right? Like what sensible person would say, okay, so I'm going to make the investment and then you guys are going to, we're going to partner. Like, how does that even work, right? The thing you have to keep in mind is that what a lot of people don't realize what it actually means to be a landlord. They don't understand all the pain, the frustrations, the headaches, the challenges, the pitfalls that actually comes along with being in that person's position. So, the average person that owns investment real estate, typically their experience is, they buy a property, they get a tenant in it, depending on what it is, they might make a few $100s a month in cash flow because it's a long-term game, right? And then by the time that lease comes up, that person moves out and all that supposed profit that they made just ends up getting recycled back into the property for maintenance. And, and that's assuming that was a good tenant, right? If the tenant doesn't pay or, they trash the place and then, then they have so there's headaches that go along with it, right? So the bottom line is what it comes down to is the value proposition that we're bringing to the table. So in our case, we just basically have a conversation saying like, listen, based on what you're asking for in rent, you could potentially earn substantially more on your property than what you're currently marketing it for a monthly rent. But if you're willing to make that investment in furnishings in order to get it set up to be ready as a short-term rental, well, not only could you potentially make a lot more money with your property, well, you don't even have to do any of the work in order to manage the rental itself. That's where we come in and that's where we actually partner together, right? So that being said, we'll walk through a few different examples on the call here today, just so you can see how we've actually structured a few of these arrangements and walk through some actual real numbers. Because one of the biggest advantages, if you learn how to control other people's properties without having to have investment in them, you get the best of both worlds with real estate, which is you get to participate in real estate, but you don't have to have substantial amounts of money and you don't have to tie up a huge amount of credit and leverage in order to do it. So you can basically engineer it so you have debt-free cash flow coming into your bank account every single month.
I mean, it's genius. It's a genius model. You guys have ultimately pioneered this too. If I'm if I'm being honest, because I've done enough homework to know that the arbitrage model, while popular, it going head to head with the partnership model doesn't really compete. And I don't see anyone else talking about the partnership model, and you guys didn't have anybody else there to help you. So full transparency, anyone listening to this right now could go out and attempt to do this on their own. You do not need the hand holding that would help you tremendously avoid the missteps and the expensive mistakes that would be happening should you choose to do it on your own. So yeah, why don't you show us this first example? And then for those that are like me and are looking at this and saying, okay, I already know for sure this is the direction I want to go. I love the idea of the hospitality business. I think I'd be great at it. These guys clearly know what they're doing. They're $1 million earners in this space already, and they're the leaders in this specific version of it. We'll talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as this special offer for early birds for our audience, and then we can get into the other two examples. Okay.
100%. Yeah, that sounds great. So if anyone wants to get into more specifics and learn how to do this, if you just want to write us at BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. So that's BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com.
Right now, guys, what Matthew is saying is right now we have our elite BNB Bootcamp Masterclass occurring. We only have 10 spots available for anyone that's wanting to learn, be mentored directly by us.
Let's walk through a couple. Go ahead,
I just want to interrupt you and say thank you. We do always appreciate that you guys offer preferential treatment to the folks here on the channel. They always appreciate it. And frankly, everybody that I see that's actually following what you're telling them to do, and they're just going by the blueprint, and they're taking the action, and they're working the system, they're making their money back in a matter of a couple or even just a few short months. This is not something that takes a long time to recoup money. And frankly, we've been having conversations back and forth because we actually coach each other. And I've been saying this is a $50,000 program, folks. So don't be surprised if in a year or two down the road, you're seeing a $50,000 price tag on this. This is not something that you want to sit and wait on. And frankly, I'm not sure why you would want to wait on your future anyway, because that's the main thing you have to lose here is time. And time is money, and money is freedom. So ultimately, stop kicking the can down the road, and let's get this thing rolling, folks. This is it. These guys are not going to keep giving these discounts. So again, thank you so much for doing this for us this time around. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and we really appreciate, everything that you guys are offering, and as well as just allowing us to come on the channel and really be part of your network.
Let's walk through a couple of examples just so we can show, real world. Because at first, when you hear this for the first time, you might go like,
how does this really work?
Like that just sounds too unbelievable to even be true. So let's get real world here for a bit. So we're going to share our screen. Okay. So let's just jump over to, so we just launched a couple new properties in the last number of months here. So here's a property. So full transparency, we'll give you both sides. So this is actually a spin on rental arbitrage. And then we're going to show you a true partnership type deal. So in this particular instance, what happened, we had a physician contact us, and she had moved. She tried to sell the property, couldn't get what she wanted.
Had been vacant, I think, for about 2 years. Like she wasn't getting any rent on it. It was a very stressful situation for her.
So what we ended up doing was, we had this discussion with her. We said, yeah, we could potentially work with you, but we have to have the conversation about the furnishings. And she said, well, to be honest, like I'm not really in a position to do that right now. So the thing, what we did is, it's never a question of, well, we can't do it. It's a question of how can we do it? So essentially how this worked, because this is a single family home and there is more income potential here, what we actually did is we partnered with a money partner who put up the money in order to get the furnishings for this particular property. Now, full transparency, that ran us around $20K.
About $20K for the furnishings.
Give or take, because we really went overboard on some of the amenities. You can see here,
a little bit less than 75,000 that Matthew put in.
So, really nice property. I mean, as you can see, fairly new, only 3 reviews on it so far. If I jump over to my calendar here, so we're in July right now, so we're still finishing out some of the month. I did a quick calculation here. So this property so far has brought in for the month just shy of $8,500, give or take.
And guys, we still have some dates to sell.
Actually, we don't.
No, we're full.
We fully booked it up.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. So now we have costs, right? So what kind of cost do we have? Well, on this particular deal, we do have rent. Okay. So we do still do rental arbitrage occasionally, but we just have a spin on it so that we're not having to come out of pocket on damage deposits and furnishings. So on this deal, we negotiated no damage deposit, so we didn't have to come out of pocket on that. And we had a money partner pay for the furnishings to get into this particular property. Okay, so what kind of expenses do we have? So rent on this is $2,000 a month. So I just did this here quickly. Utilities, roughly everything in is around $500. We had, I think, 7 cleans, so that ran us around $1,120. We have lawn maintenance come out, so that's around $60 because they only do twice a month cuts. And then we have $100 just for overall supplies that go into the property, right? So in July, we're going to book a profit of around $4,700 on this. Okay. Now keep in mind, we have 0 investment into this property. So no money out of pocket, nothing tied up with the damage deposit. Sure, we are paying rent, but I mean, as you can see by the earnings, that's more than covered in this case. So in this particular example, like we mentioned, we do have a money partner that we worked with to get us into the deal in order to pay for the furnishings. So the arrangement we have with him, we basically just split profits 50-50. So if I cut this in half, we're going to clear about $2,300.
$2,350.
About $2,350. My partner, he gets $2,350. So the fact that he gave us 20 grand, I mean, on a return basis to the partner, that's pretty attractive. So you can see why he's very advantageous to want to fund our deals based on what he's getting back in return.
Now, is that in perpetuity?
So you can negotiate this however you want, right?
It could be up until furnishings are done, and then it changes to, it could be like on a scale. So when furnishings are paid back, it get to a different percentage. It's all, life is what you negotiate. So, you know, this particular partner, we have multiple deals with him, and he's our first go-to person. So for it, so because of it, it's in perpetuity with him because he funds all the next deals coming up as well. For that, he's first option for it.
Go ahead and hit me up offline. I'm definitely interested in getting involved in that scenario.
All right.
Okay.
We can talk.
We can talk. Let's do another example here. So here's another property we launched within the last couple of months. So the difference here, this is really like what we call a short-term rental partnership. So similar dynamic in the fact that, so in this one, we have no rent, we had no deposit, and we did not spend a dime on the furnishings. Now, in this example, the homeowner actually paid for the furnishings, okay? Because he contacted us, he recently bought this property.
He wanted it managed appropriately. And he's like, how does it look to work with you guys? I'm like, great. It was that conversation I just talked about. You know, we don't pay like for any furnishings. We don't pay damage deposit. And, you know, we don't have a rent agreement, but this is how we can work together. So essentially at that point, we came to a deal here that we do a split of net profits after.
Yeah. So what happened here is he was kind of on the fence. He's like, well, should I just rent this long-term? Like, what's the short-term rental thing all about? We said, well, look, how much are you wanting to rent this for? He's like, I'm probably going to get around $2,500 a month. We said, well, let's do some research. So we did some comparables. We looked into the numbers. We said that you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. So if you agree to pay for the furnishings, we could help you bring in significantly more revenue on this property. Okay. So let's look at the actual numbers. So this is the month of July. Now, one of the things you notice here, this has a pool, right? So we live in Edmonton, Alberta, and having a pool here is seriously impractical because it is damn cold here the majority of the year.
It gets to about -40 in winter, and we're sometimes the coldest city in the world. So really having an outdoor pool is not practical at all. But the thing is actually, and what's pretty unique about this too, we are the only pool on Airbnb in our city. Currently. Yeah. So that's a big deal. So really there's no comparables at that point. So whatever you make is the numbers it is.
we get excited over the simple stuff up here. So I mean, anyways, people,
I think that stuff stands out though. I mean, it helps separate you from everybody else. And, you know, I mean, in the hot months, kids are going to love it, right? I mean, it's going to obviously bring in a crowd.
Well, speaking of hot months, so let's talk about numbers here. So in the month of July, this property brought in more than $18,000 in 1 month. Okay. Now, granted, so this is live, so we're filming this on July the 22nd. I have a couple days left to fill. We're going to try to get these full. So we might be closer to 19, potentially maybe a little bit higher, but let's run through the numbers here. So again, that's gross revenue. So a lot of people on the internet, that's where they're going to stop and they're going to say, okay, well,
great. We made 18,000.
Right.
That's
so
it. break this down.
Let's stick in reality land. Okay. So we had cleans. So the amount of cleans we had, that's going to run us around $1,500. We have utilities here. Okay. So that's going to be roughly $500. We have lawn care coming in. And then, because there is a pool, there's a little bit more, expense in upkeeping that. So when that's all said and done, net profit, because again, we're not taking rent, mortgage, any of that into account. That's not part of the agreement. We're booking a profit just based on the operations of the short-term rental of around $15,000. Okay.
Excellent.
Now, in our particular case, what we negotiated is we said to the homeowner, look, because you are making the investment in this property and you are getting it ready, how about we do a deal of 70-30? So 70% of the net profit goes to you. We keep 30% as a management fee. And that makes sense because it's their property. They put up the money. You should skew it a little bit in their favor to reward that investment that they made.
And that's net profit as well.
Correct.
Quite a few managers out there will take gross profit. We'll take a 30% off of, before any of these expenses come out. So that's the difference too. We would like to make it balanced with the homeowner because they're doing the lion's share of this. Like he paid about $25,000 in furnishings to get this up and running. So he should be making the lion's share back to it. Right. So the thing is essentially here, we're signing a piece of paper as a service agreement and we are profitable month one. Yeah. That's the difference with this.
So there's no payback period here, but having said all that, so after after the expenses and everything, and we take our management fee, we cleared ourselves about $4,600. So just between these two properties in just the month of July, if I add these up together, and this is just 2 doors. Okay. Right. And we don't own these. We have no investment in them.
And we're at 33 properties now.
So
where we're at.
Just on 2 places, we made about just shy of $7,000. And like Katrina mentioned, so we have 33 units. We started this back in
October 2018. Started, yeah.
And we've now done just shy of about $2.3 million in the last 2.5 years.
I mean, the numbers clearly speak for themselves. Can we call a spade and just define this short-term rental partnership model as, it's hospitality management, right? I mean, you're basically a property management company, but you're not doing it for long-term tenants. You're doing it for short-term guests. And so you're very clearly in the hospitality business. I absolutely know that and admit to it about my short-term rental. And it's not a good fit for everybody, right? I mean, the worst part about the hospitality business are the guests, period. And the best part is creating a great experience for the guests. 99% of my experiences with the guests have been fantastic. It makes it worth it. And the 1% are the ones that just sort of make it the nightmare that people fear. And if you are not interested in being in the hospitality business, this is not going to be a good fit for you. But that's what you're being paid for. And true or false, the reason this is such a beautiful model and something that I would frankly go back and do if I lost everything, this would be what I would do. This would be how I would rebuild everything from scratch if I lost everything tomorrow, is because it's so easy to systemize. It's so easy to automate. It's so easy to template. So it probably doesn't require us to beat this horse anymore, Dad. I know this video has gone on quite a while. Let's go ahead and wrap up, guys. If you're interested in getting involved and being one of the only 10 that are available right now for this workshop with Michael and Katrina, this is a very interactive experience. It will get you where you need to be in order for this to work for you. Make sure you email bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. Again, link will be in the description for you to make it easier. Put your first name and last name in the email body, or we won't have any way to get a hold of you. And Michael and Katrina will determine whether or not it's a fit.
Matt, thank you so much for having us on again. It's truly been a pleasure working with you guys. And
Michael, always a pleasure as well. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, my parting shots would be, you guys make me smile. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've never really held a job since graduating from college. So, you guys motivate me, and I've done multiple startups, not anything under this realm, of course. And I'd like to talk to you guys offline about, some of the things you guys mentioned today. I was unaware of those, but Matthew, love having you on the channel, brother. We wish you could join us more often. Michael and Katrina, looking forward to talking to you guys soon. So happy for your successes right now. Literally makes my day.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you guys. All right. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.